Greetings and welcome back to the channel, guys. It's been a while, I know, but I'm back and I'm bringing you an old school DK. Kinda like old school DK. It gives me old school DK vibes. It is designed to be kind of like, an old school DK and do what an old school DK does best, which is control the masses, control groups, do a lot of damage, keep them in place, preferably kill them, or at least just hold them off for long enough so that your team can do their job. So let's get right into it. So let's just look at the stats here. 26k Magicka, roughly 30k health, and 16.5k stamina. It's okay, nothing crazy here, but we're doing fine on these stats. Magicka recovery 1500 unbuffed. It goes up. You take a resource, you drink a potion, blah blah blah. You know the deal. It goes up quite a bit, and that usually is enough. You're a DK, you can sustain with your ultimates, and the way this plays is quite expensive, but you're gonna be able to sustain just fine. There's one major sustain mechanic that I might be talking about here in a second, which basically eliminates all sustain issues if you just can find like 4 or 5 seconds where you can just do your thing without being interrupted. So yeah, the spell damage and the weapon damage, let's look at these values here without any crazy stuff here. A little over 5k. Of course, this goes up to over 6k when you're fully buffed, so even though this is a tanky build, you're still pushing a little bit of weapon and spell damage here, so don't you worry about that. When it comes to armor, this one is a special one. So as you can see, we're already looking pretty decent here on the armor. This is a light armor build, by the way. So we're already pushing 29k spell resistance and 25.5k physical resistance. But this goes up to a lot more because we are wearing Pariah. So we're hitting like 36k spell resistance, I think, when we're maxed out. So that's a lot of resistances. Crit resistance 1900, that is enough for this here. We're using the ancient arc just to get the extra sustain on this one. I am a stage 3 vampire, so that means everything is a little more expensive, but I think it's important for a build like this because you're literally like, you're meant to be in a Zerg. You're meant to go in there and be a dumbass and just bathe in damage. So yeah, that's why you kind of need the damage reduction that you get from Vampire Stage 3. You're using Witch Mother's Potent Brew. Cheap, good, easy. No need for expensive food. Anything more expensive would only bring you a little bit of benefit, and it's just not worth it. So Witch Mother's is just fine. Let's take a look at the sets here. We're running the Buffer of the Swift on the body here. 5 light. As I said, this is a light build. We're still pushing over a hard capped armor, so we're doing fine on that end. Buffer of the Swift is pretty nice because you get a little bit of max Magicka, which is nice on a Magicka build. Double armor, and then you reduce the damage taken from players by 10%. That's quite important. We need a lot of damage reduction on this build. So Buffer of the Swift. Optimally, you want to run impan on all pieces, I would say, because you gotta reduce that crit damage. Crit damage hurts a lot right now, so we gotta reduce that. I have a couple other pieces here, but optimally put impan on all of them. The other set, as I already mentioned, is Pariah. Now we're running Pariah on the jewelry and the weapons, and Swift on the body. Of course, you could swap that around if you wanted to be more bulky. Of course, you would get a lot more armor if you had a Pariah because it's a heavy set on the body. I didn't want to do that because I still need to sustain and damage people. So light armor is gonna give us a decent amount of cost reduction, extra regen, and of course penetration. Just helps out with sustain and damage. And then we can still push a lot of armor by having Pariah on the jewelry and the weapons, of course. So I think that's the best mix, but you can swap them around, like I said, if you want to be more tanky and want to do less damage. I don't know why you want to do that, but hey, you do you. Okay. Jewelry is infused. We got the spell damage enchants on. That helps. You can, of course, go with whatever enchant you want to go for. Cost reduction would be nice too on a build like this. But on this one, I went all out on the damage so we can catch up on the damage that's missing, because both our sets are not really helping us here with the damage. So, yeah, you do you. Anyway, max health, double armor, and then up to 10k armor when you take damage. And, like when you're about to die, you get the maximum armor on this set, making you super tanky in the end. So I think Pariah is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. It helps you, survive burst. It helps you survive a lot of abuse and get to your healing bar and heal back up before you die. Like on other builds, you would definitely die, but with the amount of armor that you have on this one, I think you should be safe. We're running a great sword. You can run whatever weapon you want. Sword and board would be great. Gives you more, a little bit more armor. Gives you some blocking potential. Less damage though. If you are a dual wield fan, you can do that. I like the great sword the best. I mean, this is the only weapon that I had for Pariah, so that's why I used it. But in general, I prefer the 2H anyway, because you get a lot of damage, and I feel like the 2H passives are better than the dual wield passives, because the dual wield passives, people always say, oh, this and that passive. They don't realize that most of the dual wield passives only work on dual wield skills and not on other skills. So there's that. But you do you again. But I feel like the 2H has two passives that I personally like a lot. One of them is the follow-up. When you do a heavy attack, you get 10% increased damage on the next skill. That, of course, is nice when you want to drop a leap. You can do a heavy attack into a leap, get extra damage that way. And Battle Rush, 30% extra stam recovery when you kill something. This can be anything. This can be a guard. This can be any mob or, of course, a player. So that extra stam recovery helps because you need a lot of stamina on these builds. Even though you're not supposed to block on this build, I think you're going to block, because I block a lot on this, even though this is not meant to be a block build. As you can see, we're running a 2H, so our block potential is not too high. But sometimes when you go in and you see the damage coming, sometimes just blocking for like 2 seconds to make sure you're okay is the right decision. So yeah, the stam recovery definitely helps recover from that once you've spent some stamina, or you have to break free, you have to dodge roll, you have to block a little bit. Killing players, getting that extra stam recovery, it's definitely going to help you maintain your stamina bar a lot more easy. And then on the back bar, we got the resto staff. We got powered on this one. You can go with whatever you want, but I think powered, I used to go with infused on the back bar, so I can just like do a poke on the back bar, swap to the front bar. I'm not doing this on this build, or just in general, I'm not really doing that anymore. So I feel like powered is going to be pretty decent, because you're going to get extra healing. Of course, you want that on a build like this. You need strong heals. And yeah, since we're not really pushing like a lot of damage or have any other sets that help with healing, I think the 9% extra healing that we get from powered is definitely helping. So yeah, and the resto staff is I think it's the only staff that I had, but it makes a lot of sense, especially on a build that has expensive skills, as the DK has. Like all the AoE skills on the DK are pretty expensive, and you're going to be using them a lot, so you're going to run out of juice pretty quickly. But with a resto staff, that's not really a problem, because you can sustain unbelievably well. And I'll explain to you how that works exactly in a second. But yeah, the last one is Baylork as our monster set. Of course, extra damage and penetration on a build like this. That's very nice. You don't need it if you don't want to. Like if you want to run something else, that's totally fine. And you can just run corrosive, and then when corrosive comes up, you get your full penetration anyway. But this helps if you're just dropping a leap, or even if you drop a corrosive, you still get the increased spell damage, which helps, of course. And it's just an easy set to run. But yeah, run whatever you want if you're not comfortable running Balor, or you find you don't need it. I prefer that, but you do you. So that's the sets. Let's look at the skills here. We're running basically like an old school Magicka setup, which is Burning Talons. We have Draw Essence. We have the Flame Lash. So very, very old school. Of course, Burning Talons gives you a little bit of upfront damage, a little bit of dot damage. It keeps people in place, which allows you to whip them and set them off balance and get your Power Lash for healing. And Power Lash actually heals a ton. It's super nice to heal with this in a fight. It's a really, really good heal. And setting people off balance is super nice too, because we need that for sustain. You can either do that with Talons here, or you can do that with Shattering Rocks. You stun them or you root them, then you whip them once, which is going to set them off balance, and then you're going to swap to your Resto Staff and you do a heavy attack. And that one's going to give you insane amounts of Magicka back, because if you heavy attack an off-balance target, I think you get double the resources back. And then, of course, because you are on the Resto, you get the, where is it? Circle of Life. Fully charged heavy attacks restore 30% more Magicka. So you get basically 130% more Magicka back if you set someone off balance and then do a Resto heavy attack. And I'll tell you what, 2 heavy attacks and your Magicka bar is full. Okay, you're out of Magicka, and you just have enough to squeeze out like a Shattering Rocks or a Burning Talons or something. You do that, you whip them real quick. The whip is pretty cheap then, and you set them off balance, and then you just do a heavy attack, do another heavy attack, and your Magicka bar is full, and you can keep going. That's such a good sustain mechanic on this build. That's why you can get away with lower regen. All you need is a couple seconds where you can get a heavy attack in and you're golden. So yeah, like I said, Talons keeps people in place. Draw Essence is a nice, it actually does a couple things. You can spam it in certain situations to just get the heal. So you get the heal when you cast it, and then after 2.5 seconds, it explodes and deals some more damage around you. Optimally, in like if you don't need to heal, if you don't need to stay alive and just constantly heal, you could just go with a normal Draw Essence, then you do a Burning Talons, then you do a whip or a double whip, and that's kind of like your damage rotation that you want to do. Of course, you can hit people with Shattering Rocks too, and you should, because this, of course, only roots them. A lot of people are going to roll out of this, spending stamina. Then you can hit them with the Shattering Rocks. Then they have to break out of this, spend stamina. Then you can hit them back again with Burning Talons. Then you have to roll out of it, or they just stand in it. But whatever they do, they're either movement impaired or they spend stamina to get out of these effects. That's what you want. You kind of want to whittle your opponent's resources down doing that. And yeah, like I said, Draw Essence, if you take a lot of damage, if you're in a sticky situation, spam it as much as you can, because this is going to keep you alive. But optimally, you want to let it explode, and that's basically how you're going to do it. The 2.5 seconds gives you time to hit the Talons and the whip, and then it kind of goes off with the exhale explosion. So that's how you do the most amount of damage. And it's a great bread and butter combo. I like it. It just gives me the old school feels, and I miss that a lot. Shattering Rocks over Fossilize because you get a heal, which is super, super clutch. When you're being pressured, hitting someone with this thing is gonna get them off of you for a second or two, and when they break, you get healed for it. So it's amazing. So it's just it's just one of these things. This thing is gonna heal you. This is gonna heal you. This is gonna heal you. Just old school DK, tons of heals to stay alive. The next one is Revealing Flare. Like any flare morph works. The only thing that you need is the major protection for having it on the bar. As you know, we're running Pariah. We're pretty tanky. We're running Buffer of the Swift. We're getting 10% damage mitigation there. There's another 10% damage mitigation here. It's on the front bar because this is where we stay. This most of the time, this is where we do the damage. This is where we need to be tanky. And just put it on, and that's all you need. You don't have to use it. You can, of course. Pesky night blades, we all know they're broken, so feel free to use it to pull them out. But this is just for the passive buff that you're getting. Ultimate is going to be Ferocious Leap. For me, you can use Take Flight if you want. It's a little bit cheaper, does a little bit more damage. But since this is, it's not meant to be a tank build, but it's meant to be tanky. You're meant to be, you know, stay alive. So I feel like this one's better. It gives you a big damage shield, which is a lifesaver, really. That 15k damage shield really does a lot because it gives you the time to heal back up. If you take like a lot of damage, you can pop this real quick. The 15k damage shield is gonna make sure that you get the heals in before you die. And that's why I like this one a lot better than the other one on a build like this. Okay, on the back bar, the resto bar, we got our main heal, Coagulating Blood. Not much to say. It's strong. That's it. It's very expensive, but it's very strong as well. You get massive heals. Like, on this build, even though it's like, it doesn't push like a lot of damage, doesn't really push a lot of like healing bonuses or anything, this thing still hits for like 18k. Yeah, it's all the healing you need, really. And it's just, you know, bread and butter healing. Next one, Engulfing Flames. This one gives you a little bit of AoE direct damage. It gives you AoE dot damage. It makes people take 6% more damage from your flame attacks, which, you know, of course helps. But yeah, it's really nice. I use this to kill people that are running away. You know, people that are just a little too far away for me to hit them with like a whip or something. So I just spam Engulfing Flames when I'm running. I'm casting flames. I'm casting flames. For like Nightblades that are running away, they're just about to die. Hit them with this. The initial damage is going to take care of them. Then Burning Embers, of course, a little upfront damage, some damage over time, and then you, of course, heal for 132% on this build for the damage you're doing with this thing. This helps if you put this on multiple targets. This definitely is noticeable. You know, like it really helps getting that extra heal. So it's unfortunately not as cheap anymore as it used to be. It used to be very, very cheap back in the day. So it costs a little bit more, so got to be careful when you spam it on many targets. Don't spend too much time and too many resources on it, but, you know, putting that on like 3 guards or so definitely helps out with the healing. So I like to have that, and it's just, you know, like dots here, dots there, dots on the talons, which helps, you know, whittle people down. The next one is Volatile Armor. Of course, this is our physical and spell resistant spell. It's also another flame dot. This one's not very strong, the damage is very low, but it's another dot that you just get for casting it. So sometimes that's something people ask me a lot, like, why don't you cast your armor? Because I usually save my armor for when I actually approach someone, so I can cast it when I'm next to them to put the dot on. You know, it's not that expensive. You can recast it if you want, but, you know, if you have to cast the armor spell anyway, might as well just wait a couple more seconds until you approach your target, and then once you're in range of the target, you cast this thing, you put the dot on everybody that's there, and that's about it. And of course, it returns a little bit of flame damage to attackers, but that is it doesn't matter really. The damage is so low on that one. Next one is Igneous Weapons. I'll leave this up to you. You can run Igneous. You can run the other more Molten Armaments. They don't really do much. Molten Armaments gives you Empower, which doesn't mean anything in PvP. Igneous Weapons just is very long. It's a 1.2 minute buff. You kind of forget if that you have it on because it's like so long. Alternatively, of course, you could go to the Mages Guild and you could run Degeneration if you wanted to. That's another dot. You have to recast that more often, but it's a little bit cheaper, and it just fulfills another purpose in, you know, dealing more damage to a target. But since this is not really a build that's focused on like one target, this is more a build that's meant to fight a lot of people. I don't want to fuck around with Degeneration and try to put that on multiple targets because that's just going to cost me too much time. And with this one, you can kind of pre-buff before you go in, and the 1.2 minute timer really makes sure you don't have to recast this a lot. So there it is. You need a damage buff, so use that one, I guess. We're using Corrosive on this one. You can run other ultimates. I've been using Shooting Star, for example, if I want more burst. But Corrosive, of course, if you go into like a big group of people, Corrosive is going to make sure that you're not taking that much damage. You can still die. Even on this build, 36k armor with all that mitigation, 10% from major protection, 10% from the buffer of the Swift. And we also get a 30% from vampires, so that's another 50% damage mitigation on top of the hard capped armor that we have. Even though we have so much mitigation and we put on Corrosive, we can still die. Because, you know, you're usually like, this build's meant to fight like a ton of people, like 20 people at a time. In this meta, everybody has a lot of damage, so you could still die, but this helps. This helps a lot. And of course, you ignore the resistances, which does help a lot on a build like this. Gonna do a lot more damage. You're gonna see that. And of course, since you're penetrating fully, this is gonna hit harder too, which results in bigger heals. That helps stay alive. So yeah, that's basically it. That's the skills. Let's move on to the champion points. Green Tree is, you know, it is what it is. It's it doesn't do anything in PvP. I always go for the Gifted Rider, the Warmound, Sustaining Shadows, and Steed's Blessing. When it comes to the Blue Tree, take all the ones that are free, and then we're using Fighting Finesse, Backstabber. These two are for crit damage and also the crit healing, which helps a lot on this build. Biting Aura, damage done with area of effect attacks, and Mastered Arms, damage done with direct damage. We're not going for Thaumaturge because we do have quite a bit of damage over time on this build, but the damage over time damage is not that high, and with everyone having Maras on these days and just out healing and purging these effects constantly, I don't think Thaumaturge makes a lot of sense. So we're focusing on the AoE damage that we're doing and the direct damage. That's where the bulk of our damage is coming from. And that also, the you know, that buffs the inhale as well, which means you're going to get bigger heals out of your inhale. So yeah, that's basically what that is. And in the red tree, take all the ones that are free as always. And then we go Boundless Vitality. For extra health, of course. Slippery, I found very useful because you can, like, if you go in and you fight a Zerg and you get CC'd, that can cost you, even with all the mitigation that you have on this build, this can still cost you the fight. Having Slippery makes sure you break out of that stun super fast and you can get back to healing and protecting yourself. You don't have to fuck around with that buggy CC break that has plagued ESO for so long. The next one is Sustained by Suffering. This one's going to give you more regens when you have a negative effect on you. That one's pretty good. I always take that one. And of course, you want Pain's Refuge because, yeah, you're going to have a lot of negative effects on you, and this gives you up to a 20% damage mitigation on top of all the damage mitigation that you have. That one's pretty important on a build like this because you're going to have a ton of negative effects on you. So yeah, that's basically it. These are the CP, and this is the build. I hope you guys liked it. I'll show you a couple clips so you can see what this is meant to do. This is not a dueling build. This is not a 1v1 build. This is a hero build. This is a build for people with big testicles. So you go in, you do this one, you do this one, and you spam, and you spam, and you spam, and you spam, and you spam. And that's about it. So yeah, check out the clips that I got for you. I hope you like the build. I hope you give it a try. The game needs more old school DKs. If you are on PCNA, you want to play old school DK, message me, okay? We're building a DK army. We're bringing old school DK back. Let's do it. Enjoy the clips. Enjoy the build. And I'll see you next time, guys. See you later. Oh, man. No! Old school DK, let's go! No one's killing old school DK! No one ever! No one ever has killed an old school DK! They're unkillable! Oh, the double kill of justice! The double kill of justice, let's go! Oh, I see how it is. All right, dude. See you later. The third guy didn't even fall down. He jumped off. I don't know what the third guy was doing. He just jumped off. The third guy just jumped off. That was so funny. Being able to get like a good chunk of ultimate back. Seals of Endeavor? Kill 10 beasts? I just killed a warden bear? And that did it? Dude, that little smack there on the bridge, let's go. Oh, this is the end. Oh, I gotta get out of there, man. Fuck! Don't get stuck! Don't get stuck! Why am I getting stuck like that? Oh, I see how it is. Oh! What up, boys? What up, boys? Ever seen an old school Mac DK? Yeah, get the fuck out of my game, dude. What up, man? Imagine failing. Imagine failing. Okay, I'm gonna slide in here. I'm gonna slide in the back door, just like I did with your mom last night.